So, Bernie Sanders, a guy you might have heard of. If you watch MSNBC and you're just tuning into this for the first time, it might also be the first time you've heard of him as well. Maybe with CNN as well. Fox, actually, no, you've probably heard of him 1 or 2 times. So let's talk about what's happening. So Bernie Sanders, guy who we on the show have been saying for about a year is poised to succeed in this primary, is poising himself in a successful direction. And so increasingly alarmed that Bernie Sanders could become their party's presidential nominee, establishment-minded Democrats are warning primary voters that self-described Democratic socialists would struggle to defeat Donald Trump, even though, like, every poll that he's ever been in a head-to-head match, he's, like, done better than anyone else.
I mean, the last 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, just ignore that. Ignore the information. Ignore the facts. Don't be correct. Feel right. Establishment-minded voters are, it's a bit Donald Trump. The urgent warnings come as Sanders now shows new signs of strength on the ground in the first 2 states in the primary. By the way, it's not the first 2 states, it's the first 3 states. Should probably add that in. I'm going to add it for them. It's first 3 states. In Iowa and New Hampshire, I'm going to add in Nevada. Backed by dominant fundraising operation, the Vermont senator has largely escaped close scrutiny bullshit over the last year bullshit as his rivals doubt. Okay. This sentence, okay, I'm just going to read it. I'm not even trying to. His rivals doubted the quirky 78-year-old's ability to win the nomination. Why did they use quirky? When has Sanders ever, like, anyway.
Maybe his hair, because his suit is
he's got the disheveled hair
up, and he points a lot.
Yeah, it's just, like, stupid wording. Really stupid wording. Anyway, one of our favorite people, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, may he burn in pieces.
Woo!
Previously a senior aide to President Barack Obama, warned Democrats that Sanders' status as a Democratic socialist and his unwavering support for Medicare for All, quote, won't play well among swing voters in the states that matter most in 2020 because, Medicare for All, that bill that, like, independent voters hate and Republicans hate and Democrats. Oh, wait, no, all those groups have a majority of support for it. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that it ever goes down is if the media or people like Rahm Emanuel, may he burn in pieces, say that it's bad and then they believe him. And then someone else goes, yeah, but that's stupid. And they're like, oh, yeah, right, they are lying to me.
Yeah, and if I was a politician today, Rahm Emanuel is definitely the dude I would go to advice for. No.
Yeah.
Sarcasm noted.
Yeah. Anyway, so you need a candidate with a message that can help us win swing voters in battleground states, Emanuel said in an interview. The degree of difficulty dramatically increases under a Bernie Sanders candidacy. It just gets a lot harder, says the man who was kicked out of office in a Chicago dynasty situation. It's like a king getting dethroned a year into his reign without even a revolt. Sanders has spent decades fighting to transform the nation's political and economic systems, creating a long list of political adversaries along the way. Many people connected to Hillary Clinton, for example, still blame him for not working hard enough to support her after their long, bitter presidential primary feud in 2016. But enough about Hillary Clinton's personality. Let's talk about these voters. They are completely wrong on this. Sanders did more than most, and his people didn't defect to any close degree that Hillary's people defected. And I think a bit of racism is involved in that. I'm just saying, it's just an opinion.
Not saying anything, just
in
saying,
2008, when 24% of them refused to vote for Barack Obama and instead voted for John McCain, they couldn't vote for those thuggish 20 to 30-year-old black men. And in 2018, you couldn't vote for those arrogant, not thuggish anymore, flip that, arrogant 20 to 30-year-old white men that voted for Sanders, even though today Sanders has, like, the most diverse coalition. But, who cares about being correct when you could be propagandist? Anyway, people in the establishment, Washington, are terrified of Sanders. Wait, I flipped a paragraph. Yeah, no, I didn't. They're terrified of Sanders. This is Jeff Weaver speaking, who ran Sanders' campaign in the first time around. The truth of the matter is their centrist tackings over the years have led us to a place where someone like Donald Trump getting elected. And this is the big point that we've been saying as well. Donald Trump gets elected when you roll a six-sided dice in a neoliberal system. You're going to get a demagogue. You create this instability. They have created their own failures, and then they're blaming it on you, the voter. I remember, it's like if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, you think you killed a baby or anything of that nature. But no, they want to voter shame because That's all they have is this intimidation racket that they have going.
Well, and if they don't voter shame, then their story about how Biden is the only person that can defeat Donald Trump is it is obvious bullshit, right? Because it was so much more than just the voters not turning up for Hillary. Sure, that was a part of it, but there were so many factors included. And if they have to admit to those factors, then all of their narrative about who can actually defeat Trump is defeated. It can be seen through.
And then as we continue, that the California rep Amy Barra, a leader in the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee frontline of the DCCC, which we know has actively shut out or threatened consultants for, being free, I guess, wanting to support who they support, wanting to support people that aren't incumbents. Those people that really got their shit together warned that a Sanders nomination would force more than 40 Democratic candidates in competitive districts, most of which were carried by Trump 4 years ago, to, quote, run away from their nominee. That's going to hurt them, and then they're going to blame it on Sanders anyway because, of course, nothing's their fault. Sanders could do everything right. Doesn't matter. It's his fault because they don't know what personal responsibility means. Anyway, I come from a state that's pretty damn red. There's no doubt that having a socialist ahead. And by the way, Trump's already shown that whoever gets elected, whether it be Biden, Buttigieg, or Sanders, or anyone else, he's going to call a socialist. So it's a pretty redundant thing.
They called Obama a socialist, didn't they?
Yeah. And he was a moderate Republican. So I don't get this whole, they're going to call, oh my God, they're going to say a name. The Republicans are going to be name calling. We can't run anyone.
Republicans are going to be
give up.
No.
They're going to, everyone give up. The Republicans are going to be mean.
They're going to run a negative campaign. No.
We shouldn't do anything at all, guys. Nothing.
Yep.
Stop trying 2020. Anyway, several Sanders critics noted that he has largely escaped intense scrutiny throughout the campaign. Bullshit. They've ignored him. They slander him. They're actively, the previous sentences, they're calling him a socialist. What are they going to get him on? Oh, Bernie Sanders, anything that they can, oh, he went to Russia one time to visit a sister city at a point. Yeah, that'll do it. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's son, just what he's done in the last 5 years is more things you could tack on him than anything you could bring up. What do they have for Sanders? Oh, his wife was head of a college, and then after she left years later, the college went bankrupt, but she did an expansion that she should have anticipated would have made the college slightly fiscally unsound, and she should go to jail for fraud.
Well, don't you guys know that Bernie Sanders is a millionaire?
I know.
I mean, come on.
Oh, he has 3 mansions.
3 houses.
Three mansions that are
Yep.
a 2-story house, one's in here. And it's that's the thing, they're professionals. They both each make $100,000. She's a teacher.
And they're in their 70s. I mean, come on. It's when you work as a professional, you have a career, you're good at your career, you're going to do okay in life, right?
I don't know. You keep saying that this guy's a politician and stuff, but he's only been in office for 30 years. So he's just getting started.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he has any kind of money.
Nope.
Yep.
We should expect him to
If you're
going to
be a socialist, you better be living out of a cardboard box.
or else we won't take you seriously.
That's
Yep,
the thing
you're a
that-
hypocrite.
That's the thing that I really hate. It's okay, I'm going to caricature what your actual position is and then blame you for having a dumb position that I've caricatured.
Well, it's what they do to AOC too, right? AOC talks about the Green Dream or whatever, and she talks about Green New Deal, and then people will turn around and be like, "But she flies to rallies."
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy when Fox News will be like, "But are you taking a jet?" And she's like, "Yeah," and they never have a good response to that. And I've talked about that. The response that you give is, "Yeah," because putting out a fire with a drop of water is pretty useless because they're always "Well, why don't you put your money? Why don't you do what you're saying?" And then Greta Thunberg is actually sailing and not taking a plane. They're "What a fool! She's taking so much time to go from point A to point B."
Doesn't matter what you do.
It's a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
When it comes to that.
Anyway, so that's where these are the people we're talking about. These are the serious people who those 40 Democrats that, again, if Sanders is elected, will immediately fall in line, publicly at least. Anyway, so we keep going. This was an interesting part. Several Sanders critics noted that he has escaped scrutiny, in part because some assumed that Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, another progressive firebrand, maybe, was a stronger candidate who would cannibalize his support. That's a weird thing to say. So so first of all, they're not even saying that all of them thought that. Like, everyone thought that Warren was going to split the vote with him and it wouldn't matter. They're not even saying that. They're saying some. So what about the other people? They're acting like Sanders hasn't been attacked in, like, ever. Like, oh, everyone's always been so nice to him and said such good things. And now they might have to be bringing up things. Like, what are they going to bring up? He already went through this in 2016. What more is there? So anyway, we keep.
Well, that's a really interesting point. Is that it's. You almost can't attack Bernie substantively, right? He talk about a guy who talks the talk and walks the walk, right? He's that guy. He's the dude that is campaigning on a democratic socialist platform of transparency, saying that their wealth and income inequality has gotten too great, that we need to have Medicare for all. People should not be going broke because they can't afford medicine. And he's going out there and championing these issues. And it's talk about somebody who's above reproach, right? You're not going to, this is not, Joe Biden likes trains, but he keeps signing all of these things that gives his, corporate buddies, their payday that they wanted, right? You're just not finding those skeletons in Bernie Sanders' closet. So the strategy has had to be, well, we can't smear him, so we're just going to have to ignore him.
No, we can't smear him, so we're going to talk about how bad it would be if he was smeared. Because there's nothing there. There's no skeletons in the closet, so they're like, what if we open the door? There could be skeletons in there. We definitely haven't looked before.
Well, and they keep
Everyone
pretending...
imagine we wrote a scathing review.
Yeah. And so then it's like, look, like Bernie Sanders doesn't write a book. No one likes Bernie Sanders. No one would ever buy a book that Bernie Sanders writes. Bernie Sanders writes a book. It's a bestseller. Bernie Sanders, how could he be a socialist if he's wealthy from selling his books? And now he's flying in private. It's like they can't win because they're not. The point is that they're not even trying to engage in a topic. They're just going, okay, he did something good, but here's how it's bad. That's that's the entire attack against Sanders is that. Okay, but we have to keep going with this article. So there's another one. LeBolt seizes on what he called Sanders' short list of accomplishments over 3 decades in Congress. Over that time, the senator has wrote just a handful of bills that ultimately became law. Again, this is the exact same thing. Sanders is known as the amendment king because he has passed more amendments than any other person in the Senate. Now, how does that factor in? So let's look at it this way. Sanders is an independent, and for much of his career, he has caucused with the Democrats. He's helped raise money with the Democrats, but of course, he's never going to be as close to the Democrats as Michael Bloomberg after he gives the Democratic Party $10 or $20 million, but that's a separate story. Bernie Sanders, if you look at his actual, his amendments that he's done, he's passed like over 100. I think he's passed more stuff in more bills than anyone else. He just hasn't written the bills because what happens is, as an independent, how are you going to bring a bill up when you're not the head of the party? It's like the head of the party brings these bills in, then they get co-sponsors, and the bill gets passed. And they're like, well, he didn't do this impossible thing in a category he's not even eligible for because he's not in the Democrat or Republican Party, so he hasn't passed any bills. Like, he's passed 3 bills that are, like, big, but they don't mention that, like, in most of the bills
I was waiting for them to mention it in the article.
And they don't.
Most of the time what will happen is a bill will get passed, and Sanders will go, okay, I'm going to get some guys here, I'm going to get some guys here. Okay, we got $4 billion more for veterans. I'm going to put some stuff here. Okay, we have this extra consumer protection. Like, every bill that goes by, Sanders is able to amend a bunch of things in, and so he's done more than most. But of course, because he's spread it all out, because of his position not being within the Democratic Party directly, it doesn't count. They go on to talk about how he worked with John McCain to get sweeping's veteran bill passed in 2014. Just one of the biggest veterans bills. At the UFC, just small things. I mean, I bet most of the senators haven't even done that much. Anyway, he's gotten billions of dollars for community health centers that he added to the ACA. Not a whole lot. Hasn't affected anything. They're full of shit, and they know it. So this is what we have. This is where we're at with the Democrats. This is what they're trying to do. Paul's point is exactly right. They can't do anything. to hurt him. They've already tried in 2016 to get everything they could. Like, they're acting like he didn't run for president previously and he wasn't attacked. But what are the attacks that Bernie Sanders goes under? They're attacks of maybe this will happen in the future because they don't have anything to go after him with. Oh, Bernie Sanders hasn't passed anything, except he's passed more than you, or just about anyone else, maybe besides like the speaker, because of all these amendments he's done. And the big bills that he has done, like community health centers and like people would run for president on just like that in the veterans bill that he passed. Like, oh, I'll heal the country. Sanders is one of the poorest senators, but he's attacked as if he's one of the richest. Again, they can't do anything to him.
Not just one of the poorest senators, literally the least wealthy senator or congressperson. I think maybe AOC has less financial wealth
but
than he does.
She's in the House.
Right, but among senators, yes, Bernie Sanders is the least wealthy. I wanted to also mention, like, the talk about the airplanes and how could you possibly be a socialist when you've got houses
And a microwave.
It just reminds me, I know, the microwave.
No,
Color TV.
I remember when I was really young, like Fox would do like a thing where they were like, oh, that's Fox right there.
We like looking at Paul.
Oh yeah. So they would do a thing where they're like, you know, are the poor really poor? These complainers, 70% of them have microwaves. 80% have refrigerators.
I remember that. It's amazing.
Like, so the thing that it reminds me of is that meme that's got like the peasant with like the bundle of sticks on his back, and he's going, "We should improve society so much." And then there's like Mr. like conservative bro with his sports sunglasses on comes up and is like, "And yet you're a part of society. Curious." Like, get out of here with that.
Yeah. Well, what I hear over and over in these kinds of stories is just like a pretending. They're playing pretend as if Bernie's policies aren't mega popular. They're pretending like a populist wasn't the person who won the last election. And they're pretending as if, and this is how we started out the story, as if it's not the fault of the establishment that they lost the last election.
Right.
What the fuck do they know about how to win an election? They lost to the most easily losable person you can lose to.
Well, what I will say is that they learned from the Clintons, and that's gaslight everything. Every weakness you have is now your opponent's weakness. Clinton, when she was running, they thought that the worst thing, the biggest weakness she had in their internal polling was that her connections with Russia. So, Trump, you're a Russian asset. So they're just using the same playbook. They are talking about themselves. Every single thing that they attack Bernie Sanders with is their own insecurities. Oh, Bernie Sanders hasn't do anything. He hasn't accomplished anything. By the way, the other thing he's done, shifted the entire platform of the entire Democrat. Oh, small things, not much. What have you done? That's the response we should be giving these politicians when they say anything about Bernie Sanders that isn't substantive. And that is, what about you? Oh, Bernie isn't accomplished. What have you passed? You've passed nothing. You've done nothing. You just talk and you have internal power that you're gaining. You're playing a different game. You're playing a game of personal power accruitment. Bernie Sanders is playing the, hey, let's maybe make society better for many more people than we currently do. Here's a way to do it. I have a plan. Bernie Sanders is winning by winning. All these guys are punching water.